Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat.
the sarcasm in Kamala's responses here are golden. Golden. This is a good debate. Are you not entertained? Hello, my friends. My name is Kwame Christian. I'm the founder and CEO of the American Negotiation Institute and the host of the #1 negotiation podcast in the world, Negotiate Anything. And you are probably wondering, what is this Kwame on my side doing? Well, for our new listeners and hopefully subscribers, I just want you to know I have a studio. I feel really uncomfortable here. I'm in a hotel. I'm in California. LinkedIn is a client and we're doing some work with them, so I've got a busy schedule today. But I've been on a flight the whole debate. So I wanted to make sure that I can get this out to you as soon as possible. So I apologize for the difference in video quality and audio quality. Today, we have a presidential debate reaction, and this is a style over substance debate analysis. And when I say style over substance, what I mean is we're analyzing the style that they're using. What am I seeing? What is the body language that's being displayed? What are the persuasive techniques that are being used? Analyzing that and reacting to that. This is going to be politically agnostic. Okay, I'm not getting into the politics. You all can handle that in the comments. And something else that I'm trying, and I'm very uncomfortable with this. I want to be a little bit less professorial and a little bit more like my authentic self. The people who know me personally have been asking me to be more me. And there's a part of me that says, hey, I want to stay professional, professorial Kwame. But you let me know in the comments, do you prefer this style or do you prefer me being business mode Kwame? Let me know in the comments. And also let us know what you saw from the debate so we can keep the conversation going. I'm going to just watch and I am going to react to the first things that I see. And I'll do that until I determine that the video has gone to a sufficient length. And with that, let's start rolling.
Kamala Harris. Let's have a good debate.
Nice to see you. Have fun.
Thank you.
Stop. we made it. They haven't even talked yet. This is already a distinct difference between this debate and the other debate. First debate, no handshake, not even any acknowledgement. It was almost as if they had so little respect for each other and the animosity was real. And it's not to say that there isn't animosity and friction between those two, because we are humans competing over scarce resources. That is what creates conflict. So yes, and very different views of what the world is and should be. We understand that. But I think for the polarized world that we live in right now, it's important for our leaders, especially leaders on opposite sides of the aisle, to demonstrate the fact that we might disagree, but we still see the humanity in other people, and we are willing to just have some level of decorum and respect in this setting. So I think that's a really strong start. And also, I will note this too. It didn't seem like Donald Trump was the person who was bridging that gap. Kamala Harris went significantly further over to bridge that gap and initiate the handshake. So that's noteworthy as well. I think that displays a lot of confidence going up to somebody who is a juggernaut, a leviathan in business and in politics. And I think that was a very important message to send, especially given the gender dynamics too. Donald Trump's a big, imposing guy. We've seen him shake hands with other world leaders and he throws them around. So I really think that was a strong first move to say, hey, listen, I'm not scared of you, even though in most cases, Donald Trump is the storm, the biggest, scariest person in the room. So I think that is very, very noteworthy and very important to pay attention to.
Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid, and I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start-up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before.
Oh, stop. Can I just be real with you for a second? The video that I recorded for the first debate reaction for Trump versus Biden this year was the hardest video that I ever had to do, because I'm saying, what is this? The whole debate was so low quality. It was hard to find some gems that are noteworthy in a positive way to talk about. She crushed that first answer. She crushed it, because let's look at the way that she answered it. She started off with a story, a personal story that humanized her. That was powerful. And then she talks about the policy, specifically the policies that she wanted to enact, and then compared it specifically to the policies that Donald Trump would enact. And so it was a very substantive response that started off with a trust-building mechanism of a heartwarming story, but then evolved into a rigorous policy conversation. And note, classic politician move, did not answer the question. Do you remember what the question was? Probably not. And that's the point. It was a great answer for a debate, but it wasn't the answer to the question. Are you better today than you were under his administration? I first would have started off with a confident yes. But before I get into the specifics, let me tell you this story. So I would have addressed that directly. I don't like the fact that it looked like a dodge. That looked like a dodge. I'm going to see. Let's see if former President Trump picks up on that and responds.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. But the only jobs they got were bounce-back jobs. These were jobs bounced back, and it bounced back, and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Now, strong response for Trump. Here's why. Did he speak with as much precision to the policy as Vice President Harris? No, he did not. But you have to remember, these are two very, very, very different styles of leaders. So Vice President Harris, a prosecutor, an attorney general, senator, and then here, right, as vice president. Donald Trump, a businessman, a charismatic businessman, media phenomenon, and somebody who has controlled the media and the news for decades. He understands that when it comes to persuasion, it's not always the substance, and usually is not the substance that moves people. It is the flash. It's the showmanship of it, and he's a great showman. And so we, in that answer, got straight to Donald Trump's greatest hits, talking about border security. He turned this economy question, which is actually something that he was pretty strong on, he turned it into an immigration question because he knows he's stronger there. And one thing I want you to pay attention to is either candidate as they are listening. Because remember, this is when we think about the debate format, I don't want you to look at this and say, this is how I should talk to my fellow humans. No, it's not. They're not talking to each other. They're talking through each other to us. They are talking to us. And their goal is to just dunk on the other side in order to make them look cool to us, right? So I don't want you to mimic these types of behaviors, but I want you to pay attention to what it is that they're doing. So both of them, just pay attention to how they listen. And as Vice President Harris was listening to Donald Trump right there, you can see her shaking her head, almost a little scoff, and then writing down a note. She is sending a message to us saying, that's nonsense, that's nonsense, that's nonsense. And I've noticed in debates, a lot of times, like the more dismissive you can be, even if what they're saying is a legitimate fact, it undermines them as they are telling the story, as they are making their point. Because if you can demonstrate that what was said, the punch that was delivered had no impact, and in fact, it was ridiculous, then it brings a little bit of skepticism to our eyes as we are looking at that too. So just pay attention to the body language of both candidates as they're listening. not just when they're talking.
Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. The worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic.
And there we see the Donald Trump headshake, dismissive headshake. I was wondering, he was listening very respectfully at the beginning. I was like, I don't think that would last. And so there it is. I actually think for the purposes of the debate and what it is that these candidates are trying to accomplish, that's a strong move. I would be doing it all the time if I was in this arena. But again, remember, this is not real life. This is theater. They're talking to us. They're not talking to each other. And if you listen like that, just shaking your head, like rolling your eyes, if you listen like that, it is going to do more harm than good in your actual conversations. But for now, enjoy the theater.
Donald Trump left us, but I'm going to tell you all on this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling.
What? Woo! This is the classic lawyer move, drawing the sting. And so usually when you draw the sting, what you're doing is you're producing a little bit of evidence that is against you before the other side can produce that evidence. And as a result, since you framed it first, you put it out there first, when the other side says, and you know what else they did? They did this. The jury says, well, we already knew that, and we don't feel like it's that bad. But if you didn't take that preemptive strike on yourself and say, hey, there's some bad stuff against me, then that blow would have landed significantly harder from the person, from your opponent. Now, you can recognize that this is not precisely drawing the sting, but it is taking the steam. Let's go ahead and call it taking the steam. And so what she did there is she's going to say, hey, listen, there are a lot of things that Donald Trump will do in this debate. He will probably do this. He'll probably do that. He'll probably say this. And she's already characterizing it as the old tired playbook. Like, hey, we've seen this before. And remember, her whole slogan right now is, we're not going back. We're not going back. And so this is priming us to say, hey, you're going to see him do some things in this debate. We've seen it all before, and the reason he does that is because he doesn't have substance. And so what she's trying to do is take the steam out of those classic Donald Trump attacks before they come to her. So I think that is a really, really strong move.
What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again.
If I were Donald Trump, I would have shaken my head vigorously on that, because as time has gone on, Project 25 has become an issue that is growing in popularity and momentum and gravity. And he's tried to distance himself from it. At that moment, I think he missed an opportunity as he's listening to shake his head dismissively. Not true. Not true. I don't know anything about that. No. I would have been undermining that the whole time. I think you really missed out. And let me go back and see how he handled that just facially real quick.
Is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing.
He nodded. He nodded. That's not good. That's not good, because he's been trying to distance himself from it, because politically speaking, everybody's paying attention to the polls. What issues move people which direction on the polls? And he has been trying to distance himself recently. And to nod at that point, to nod at something that your opponent is saying about you as an attack, that's an odd one. That's an odd one.
Pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas.
And there he distances himself. But I would want, if I were on his team, I would want to see a more visceral distancing as she is saying it, refuting it from the moment that the words Project 2025 come from her mouth. So he's distancing himself, and also using willful ignorance too. So he says, this is not a good thing. This is not working for me. It's not in my favor. And so he's like, I am so removed from that, I'm not even reading it. You all talk about it. I'm not even aware of it, because he knows if he says, yes, I've looked into it and I'm distancing myself, it's like, okay, well, this is a pretty big document here. Let's go through each and everything and talk about how you feel about it. But for him to just 100% blanket distance himself, I think that's the best political move he can make in this position, in this situation.
We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounce back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Now, one of my buddies, he is an AI researcher, Dave Shapiro. Check out his channel if you ever want to learn anything about AI, from the philosophy side to the actual tech. But I love his definition for truth. He says truth is nothing but the stories we choose to believe. The stories we choose to believe. And so earlier in the debate, Vice President Harris characterized the Trump economy as a losing economy because of, think about all of the unemployment. And so she's implying, hey, employment was better once we took over. And then he is saying, hey, no, the reason unemployment rose when you got here is because it was a bounce back. The pandemic was like nothing we've ever seen. The economy was really, really, really strong. Look at the stock market and everything. It was good. And then the pandemic hit us and it went down. And now you got more jobs after I left. Boom. That's just the natural response that the economy would have had anyway from the pandemic. And so who's right, who's wrong? That's not what we are here to talk about. I'm not calling balls and strikes here. I am just in the crowd eating popcorn, just like you. That's it. In the crowd eating popcorn. I don't care. But here's the main point. It is all about storytelling. Life will give you data points. Different events, different things will happen. Those will create evidence. They will create trails of occurrences. And now it's your job to weave a compelling narrative around this. And in real life, the stories that are the most gripping are the ones that are characterized in a way that make you want to believe that it's true. There's some emotional connection to it, and it is true enough for the person who's listening to believe it. So I love this point because you can see that they are both referring to the exact same data points and characterizing it in a completely different way. And that's just how life is too. So when we're having conversations with people, when we're just navigating the world, just remember that it's not necessarily always about truth in the truly objective sense of the word. What is it that actually occurred? When you think about truth in terms of the stories that people choose to believe, now it helps us to understand others a little bit more. We can listen more empathetically because now I think to myself, some stories are true, some stories are fiction. I am genuinely curious to hear your story. I'm not going to fact check you as you are talking. I want to hear your story. That's fascinating. And then also for you, when you're thinking about how you are going to convey the truth, whatever your truth happens to be, just remember the facts don't always speak for themselves. And now we're in an age where there is so much data and information, it's hard for people to decipher what is real, what is not real, what is relevant, what is irrelevant. So it's your job as the storyteller to create a compelling story with the data that is in front of you.
Not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit.
Now, what she just did was a very powerful, powerful tool because she's saying, hey, listen, you know I want to be president. You know I want to be president, so I'm biased here. So let's bring in some people who are not biased. All of these economists, Nobel Prize, those are really smart people. All these Nobel laureates, they say that your stuff is not great. And then this is a sneaky thing, and I'm wondering if this was done strategically to trigger former President Trump a little bit here too. He went to the Wharton School. And to say, yeah, even the Wharton School says that your plan would fail. That is significant because they would want their alum to do well. Facts check me on that. I'm pretty sure he went to Wharton. But they would want their alum to do well. And if they're saying it, if they are against you, that's significant. So I think that's a powerful way to bring in credibility from a variety of sources. Hey, people who should be on your team, Wharton School, they don't like your plan. And all of these Nobel laureates, they're super smart. They don't like your plan either. Nobody likes your plan, right? That's the strategy she's using. So if you're in a conversation, you recognize, hey, I'm having trouble breaking through, maybe it's because you personally, for whatever reason, don't have credibility with that audience. So you bring in people who have a little bit more credibility in that specific element of the conversation, and then they can carry the persuasive message for you.
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have, and who's going to have higher prices, is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country, because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
So here, Trump is really leaning into his brand, that deal-making brand. The Art of the Deal, one of the most popular negotiation books out there ever, or maybe the most, probably between that and Getting to Yes at this point, but really good negotiation book. So he came in with that branding saying, hey, I'm going to get better deals. We've been ripped off for years. And he actually lived up to that in terms of aggressively negotiating international deals. Now, whether or not you agree with what the deals were, that's a different thing, but he did do that. And so I like the fact that he's bringing that in as part of his brand and talking about how he will continue to do that. And I'm surprised it took him this long to do this, but then he brought it to the fact that everyday people are feeling the burn of the Biden economy. That's the story that he's telling. And if I were him, I would have brought that in way sooner. Because when it comes to the economy, it can be very theoretical and hard to understand for a lot of people. But if you can say, hey, what are your grocery prices? What were they in the past? Was it better now? Was it better then? That's a really simple argument that people can understand. I think he's missing out by not leaning heavily into that. The specifics of tariffs, I mean, it sounds cool in terms of the branding. I would have just said a very, like, 1 or 2 sentences on negotiating tariffs and fighting for the USA in terms of negotiation. Then I would have made it very, very relevant to the people who are listening, so they can actually say, yeah, actually, I can tangibly feel the price of eggs going up. I can't tangibly feel tariffs.
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them.
This is nothing but pure preparation. Just brilliant preparation, because she was clearly ready for that. And so when he says, I'm a deal maker, I negotiated all these deals, I was tough, tariffs were up, and things were good. And then she said, yeah, because of your tariffs that you think were so good, we had a trade deficit that was significant. And here are examples of why your deals were bad. That was a very powerful response. And again, it shows the power of preparation. You can't come up with that off the fly. I don't know anybody who could. But again, excellent prep.
Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21, that's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're...
the sarcasm in Kamala's responses here are golden. And again, remember, this is not how you truly interact with people in the real world. This is theater. And I'm eating popcorn. I'm enjoying this. Because again, I think about prize fighters. Think about boxers. Think about people in the UFC, MMA fighters. Sometimes if they get hit really hard, they'll smile. They'll smile and shake their head because they're signaling to the judges, the people who are judging the competition, if it doesn't end in a knockout, they're saying that did not hurt. That might have looked like it hurt, but it did not hurt. So they're letting the people know that I'm still strong, I'm good. That wasn't a good shot. Now bring it back here. That's what she's doing. That's what she's doing here, because these are pretty good. These are pretty good punches he's throwing. You know, in terms of, again, this is a style over substance debate analysis. I really want to hammer that home. Style over substance. He's landing some good ones right now. And she's just like, this is nonsense. That's supposed to hurt me? That doesn't hurt me. This is adorable. So I think this is a really good way to undermine what he's saying, even though they're good hits. Now watch, think about it differently. So if somebody's like saying something to you and you're like, oh, okay, really? Right? Look at that. Versus, oh, look down. Ooh, that hurt. Oh yeah, that did hurt. Because we look at not only the person who is delivering the punch, but the person who is receiving the punch to see how hard it was. Because we're saying, ooh, that looked hard. Are they wobbling? And she's showing that she's not wobbling. Again, for the theatrical element of this, I think both of them in this scene right now, I'm calling it a scene like it's a movie. It's a movie to me. In this scene, both of them are crushing it. Trump landed some good hits. Kamala is dodging, bobbing and weaving. I like this. This is good. This is a good debate. Are you not entertained? Put "I am entertained" in the comments, or entertained. I don't know. Maybe this being more authentic and chill thing is, maybe I can do it.
Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban, because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then
I'm going to make this point. Can you all call me on this? Call me on this, because I might be off. But one of the things that people do when they are feeling stressed out is they engage in self-pacifying behavior. So imagine they might rub their own arm. You know, if you're consoling somebody else, you might rub their arm. When nobody's there to console us, we might rub our own arm, rub our own legs. In body language, that's called self-pacifying behavior. Another thing that we might do subtly is we might try to stimulate different parts of our body that have a lot of nerve endings. So people might play with their hands. There's a lot of sensation in the hands. People, you see men right here, there are a lot of nerves in the like the sternum area. And so men, you might see them start to fix their tie. Women might play with their jewelry and things like that. Another thing too is looking at what people do with their lips. Now let's bring it back to the long-winded point. I think that's the first time Donald Trump licked his lips in this debate. And the reason why I think that's noteworthy is, right now, based on the polling and political strategists, abortion is one of the critical issues of this election, and it has not been a political winner for the Republicans since Roe v. Wade fell, which was one of the things that he wanted to do with the judges that he put into place. And now he's trying to backtrack from the issue because it's not a winner for this election for him. And it's really interesting because right now what they're doing is they are demonstrating, hey, in the past, you were very, very pro-life and you were critical in eliminating Roe v. Wade. But recently you have seemed to be backpedaling on that. So I want you to address that directly. And this is I think this is the toughest issue in the whole election for him. And he knows it. Donald Trump is very politically savvy. Very, very, very politically savvy. And this is the toughest question. He was doing a good job staying stone-faced and stoic as he was listening to it. But as the question went longer, I saw that little interesting. So that to me tells me, again, we want to understand, was he doing that before? I don't think he was. If this is the first time he's doing that, that's kind of noteworthy. It means that there's something there. We don't know exactly what it is, but I would say this is a very pressure-packed moment for him. Let's see how he handles it.
Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job. He said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of...
Oh, we fact-check now. Interesting. Let me think about how to react to that. But I think Donald Trump did the best he could with that response. I think, again, this is a style over substance debate response, debate reaction. I think he did the very best he could, and it was smart of him to try to parlay this into unpopular policies that the Democrats have. Again, there was a fact check there. That was not me. Okay? But I think that was the best he could do. Not say, hey, I'm anti-abortion. That's not what he said. He was very artful in how he responded. He said, okay, yeah, no, this is a states' right issue. I think this is big and the states should decide. And I think that's the best he can do on this issue. But that deflection, I think, was smart. He turned something that was a losing point for him and a really tough question into an attack, which is a distraction. So it'll be interesting to see how Vice President Harris responds to this one.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact.
And so that's a nice little callback, not a comedic callback, but a strategic callback, because she said, hey, listen, there's that playbook. Remember at the beginning where we talked about the playbook? She said, hey, there's a playbook here, and I want you to be mindful of that. And so she's going to call back and say, hey, this is part of the playbook. I told you this was coming, right? So I think that was very, very strong.
Which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime, a violation to their body.
He did it again. He licked his lips again. It is just this issue. He recognizes how significant this is. That's really interesting. That is really interesting. And Harris is doing a great job of nailing him down on that and staying focused. Now, think about this. This is one of those things that has worked exceptionally well for Donald Trump in the past because he's so aggressive in ways that break political decorum in the past. And this is not just in the general elections against Democrats. He was, remember what he did to the Republicans in the primaries? He decimated them in these debates. People didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to do. They'd never been up against a force like this. And in the past, Democrats would often react. He would attack them, they would react. They were constantly playing defense and saying, you shouldn't say that. It wasn't effective. And so now she is doing a really great job of ignoring the attacks that she has defined as baseless and focusing on the facts as she sees them, saying, this is what it is. This is what he did. This was the outcome. This is what he believes. And that's it. Keeping her message really clear. Because if she would have addressed, okay, yeah, I don't believe this, I don't believe that, blah, blah, blah. Now she is not taking advantage of this opportunity. So this is a very, very good response.
What happens to their body next? That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade. As President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law.
I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart.
I just realized it's been 40 minutes. I'm having so much fun. Okay, I need to go to sleep. I got a presentation tomorrow morning. But yes, I hope you liked this. Let me know. And if you didn't, actually, I hope you didn't like it because it's easier for me to be business Kwame. Hello and welcome. I'm Kwame Christian. Blah, 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 blah. No, I mean, this was fun. Let me know in the comments, do you prefer the Kwame the professor or just Kwame the person? Oh, man. Pressure. I'm kind of scared of these results. But listen, I appreciate you regardless. Keep the conversation going in the comments. I hope this was helpful. I hope it was entertaining. And I hope you tune in. Please like and subscribe. And if you didn't like it, dislike it. Hit that dislike button twice. But if you liked it, maybe hit it 3 times. All right. I'm clearly tired. I'll catch you later. Bye.